So, good morning, students. In today's video, we are going to cover this topic mm, on metamorphic rocks. Okay, so we have seen that on crust, basically, we find three types of rocks. That is, the igneous rocks, that are also called the primary rocks, then the sedimentary rocks, that is we also call them secondary rocks. Then we have these metamorphic rocks, and they are also called tertiary rocks. So these rocks are mainly found on the Earth's crust. So the primary igneous and secondary sedimentary rocks may change their physical and chemical characteristics and form due to huge pressure and heat. So these igneous and the sedimentary, because of huge pressure, heat and pressure, with huge amount of heat and pressure, they form what you call metamorphic rocks. The transformed tertiary rocks are called the metamorphic rocks. This word has its origin in the Greek word metamorphosis. So this metamorphic rocks come from this Greek word metamorphosis, which means metamorphosis make the rocks to go through the process of recrystallization, which result into the transformation of the protolith into harder and denser rocks. So what happens is the rocks go in this particular process, the rocks go through recrystallization. Because of that, the rocks become more harder and denser. Recrystallization destroys bedding planes and joint systems. So, what does the recrystallization done to these rocks do to these rocks? So, recrystallization is basically destroying the bedding planes and the joint systems. Okay, the bedding planes and the joint systems mean like we have these rocks s- we there's like layers between them, and those layers that separate these within these rocks, okay, one layer to another, are called the bearing planes or the joint systems. So recrystallization remove these bedding planes. Okay, as a result, the marble or quartz may show no stratifications in the rocks. The metamorphic rocks cover a significant part of the Earth's crust. It can be classified on the basis of types of transformed rocks, transforming agents, and place of transformation. So basically, these type of rocks are classified on the basis of the transforming transformed rocks, the transforming agents, and the place of transformation. So let's talk about the major characteristics of the metamorphic rocks. So let's talk about the characteristics, students. Okay. So basically, metamorphic rocks are denser and harder than the original protolith. Sorry. So whatever the original protolith or the rock is, metamorphic rocks become harder and denser. We know how, because of the process of recrystallization. Okay. The recrystallization process makes bigger crystals. So these have crystals, bigger, denser, not smarter. The ores are segregated and make it easy to mine. These rocks do not contain Fossils. So easy to mine but do not contains fossils. Why easy to mine? Because the ores are segregated. Okay. They may contain well developed sorry foliated or lineated structures. So they contain foliated and lineated structure. Okay. These are some characteristics of the metamorphic rocks. Now let's talk about the metamorphism of the original igneous or sedimentary rocks may happen due to intense pressure and heat by agents of metamorphism in many places or localities. So the metamorphic occurs because of intense heat and pressure on the igneous and the sedimentary rocks. The original rocks may undergo intense pressure due to convergence of the two plates, and the rocks may get folded and transformed. So the rocks goes into huge amount of pressure because of the convergence of two plates. Because of that, they experience huge amount of pressure. The convergence The magma may come to the Earth's surface and heat may transform the rocks. So, how they experience heat? Because of the magma. So, this is how they experience a huge amount of heat and pressure. Heat by magma, pressure by the convergence of two plates. Sometimes water penetrates deep into the crust and its heat, pressure, and chemical reaction can alter the original rocks. Sometimes water penetrates into these deep rocks, deep into the crust, and because of that, its heat, pressure, and chemical reaction can alter the original rocks. So like the water when it penetrates in deep into the crust, its pressure, its chemical reaction can alter the original rocks. In all the cases, the effect of transformation may be very localized or regional. The metamorphism of rocks generates new texture, composition, and foliation of rocks. These are classified on the basis of foliation and original rocks. So there are so now classify different types of rocks. Foliated metamorphic rocks. Okay. So foliated metamorphic rocks means foliated metamorphic rocks are very complex in its composition. The texture is layered, foliated, lineated, banded, and the minerals are oriented. Slates and schist are example of foliated. So these are very structured, you know. Slates and schist are the example of these type of rocks. Non-foliated metamorphic rocks. So these rocks are simple in its composition, the texture is granular and equidimensional and has no definite orientation of the minerals. Quartz, Quartzite and marble are non-foliated metamorphic rocks. Quartzite and marble are example of non-foliated rocks. Metamorphic rocks with an igneous protolith, that means These metamorphic rocks are made by the igneous rocks. Simple as that. And then we have sedimentary protolith, means the primary rock that these metamorphic rocks are made up of are sedimentary rocks. So that's why primary means, that's why it is written that igneous protolith means the primary rocks are igneous rocks. Sedimentary protolith, that means the primary rocks are sedimentary rocks. So the example of these type of igneous rocks are igneous protolith. Igneous protolith. Okay, the example of these type of rocks are uh, pyroxene, and hornblende. And the sedimentary rocks. So the example of these type of rocks are phyllite and quartzite. Okay, so that's it for this video. Thanks for watching.